The day I thought my family would be proud of me for finally starting my own business, I found out my cousin had stolen my idea and presented it as his own. And the worst part was watching everyone praise him while completely ignoring the sacrifices I had made. I cheated on my wife Sarah the night before what should have been the proudest moment of my. Not physically, but I might as well have put it through her heart. I spent 3 years building a tech startup from our garage while she worked double shifts as a nurse to keep us afloat. And when I finally got the chance to pitch it to my uncle's investment firm, I found out my cousin Derek had already presented the exact same concept as his own idea 2 weeks earlier. The betrayal hit me like a freight train. Derek had been coming over for family dinners every Sunday for months, asking innocent questions about my work, taking photos of my whiteboards for inspiration. Sarah always insisted we invite him because family is everything. I was so focused on perfecting my pitch that I never saw the sliding between my ribs. When I walked into that boardroom and saw my presentation on Dark's laptop, something inside me snapped. Not the righteous anger to expect, something uglier. Something that whispered, if family doesn't matter, then nothing matters. That's when I texted Emma. Emma was Derek's ex-girlfriend from college. She'd been sliding into my DMs for weeks after Derek dumped her for someone younger. I'd always ignored her messages, but sitting in that parking lot, watching my dreams get handed to my cousin on a silver platter, I finally responded. Want to get drinks? I could use a friend right now. She replied within seconds. Fine, I've been waiting for realize family doesn't deserve by. I should have driven home to Sarah. Should have told her what happened and let her hold me while I figured out how to rebuild. Instead, I drove to the hotel bar where Emma was waiting in a red dress that cost more than her monthly scrubs allowance. Look like, Emma said, sliding a whiskey toward me. But honestly, it's about time stop being the family doormat. Those words felt like absolution. For 3 years I'd been the struggling nephew while Derek coasted on his trust fund and charm. Sarah had been telling me to be patient, that hard work always pays off. But watching Derek shake hands using my business plan proved her wrong. Sarah doesn't understand what we're going through. Emma continued, her hand finding my thigh under the table. She's too simple, too satisfied with ordinary, but each word was disguised as sympathy. I drank it down eagerly. We talked for hours. Emma understood ambition in a way Sarah never could. She understood the burning need to prove, to show everyone who doubted that they were wrong. Sarah just wanted me to be happy with whatever scraps our way. Derek stole from, Emma whispered as we moved to a corner booth, her body pressed against mine. But her better than him, smarter, more creative, just need someone who sees that. When she kissed me, I kissed back. Not because I wanted her, but because I wanted to someone the way I was. Derek had taken my future. Fair trade then I'd take something of his, even if it was an ex he'd already discarded. We didn't sleep together that night, but we might as well have. I spent 4 hours in that hotel bar, holding Emma's hand, letting her my ego, feeding my resentment until it grew into something monstrous. I told her things about Sarah I'd never said out loud. How her ambitions felt small compared to mine. How sometimes I wondered if I'd settled. Every word was a betrayal. Every moment I spent letting Emma convince me that Sarah was holding me back was another nail in the coffin of my marriage. I got home at 2 a.m. to find Sarah asleep on the couch, still in her scrubs from her WOZO-BUIGDY banner in the kitchen and a homemade cake on the counter. She'd spent her day off preparing to celebrate my success. I stood there looking at her exhausted face. At the celebration she'd prepared for a victory that would never come, and felt something inside me. Not guilt, not shame, just emptiness. I covered her with a blanket and went to bed without waking her. The next morning, she was so excited about my presentation that she called in sick to work for the first time in 2 years just to drive me to the office and wait in the parking lot like it was my first day of school. I'm so proud of baby, she said, straightening my tee. No matter what happens in there, I've already won. Built something amazing. I kissed her goodbye knowing I was about to walk into a room where Derek would be presenting her sacrifice and my sleepless nights as his own brilliant innovation. The meeting lasted 37 minutes. Derek did the presentation flawlessly because it was my presentation. He answered every question perfectly because they were my solutions to problems I'd spent months solving. When they offered him the deal, he had the audacity to say, I couldn't have done this without my family's support. He looked right at me when he said it. Sarah was waiting in the car with coffee and that bright smile that used to make everything feel possible. How did it go, she'd ask. Derek got the deal. I said, Derek, but I thought he stole my idea. Presented it as his own. They gave him everything we worked for. I watched her face crumble, not for herself but for me. Even in that moment her first instinct was to comfort me. We'll figure this out, she whispered, reaching for my hand. We always do, but I pulled away. Because Emma's words were still echoing in my head. Because I was already planning to text her back. Because somewhere in the space between Derek's betrayal and Sarah's unconditional love, I decided that loyalty was just another word for weakness. Maybe, I said, staring out the window instead of at my wife. Maybe some things can't be figured out. I didn't know it yet, but those were the last words I'd speak to Sarah before everything we'd built together came crashing down. That night, while she slept, I texted Emma, we're right, about everything. Her response came immediately, come over. Let me show what's been missing. I stared at that message for an hour before I replied, on my way. As I grabbed my keys and headed for the door, I caught a glimpse of our wedding photo on the mantel. Sarah in her simple dress, me in the suit we'd bought secondhand, both of us radiating pure happiness because we thought love was enough. We looked so naive. So I turned the photo face down and walked out into the night, toward a decision that would everything good I'd ever had. Emma lived in the kind of penthouse apartment I'd promised Sarah we'd have someday. Floor to ceiling windows, marble countertops, the whole city sprawling out below like we owned it. It was everything I thought I wanted until I had to step over nursing textbooks in our cramped apartment to get it. Came, Emma said, opening the door in silk pajamas that probably cost more than Sarah's wedding dress. I shouldn't be here. She pulled me inside, hands already working at my shirt buttons. Because we're finally ready to stop pretending we're satisfied with mediocrity. That word, mediocrity, it hit exactly where Emma intended. Because that's what I'd started calling Sarah in my head. Mediocre, ordinary, safe. Standing in Emma's apartment, surrounded by expensive art and designer furniture, Sarah felt like a consolation prize I'd been carrying around for 8 years. We ended on her couch, Emma's legs draped across my lap, talking about Derek and the stolen business plan until talking turned into kissing and kissing turned into hands roaming, and then I stopped. I can't do this to Sarah. Emma laughed. Actually laughed. Sarah, the woman who thinks Red Lobster is fine dining, the woman who clips coupons and drives a Honda from 2015, or worried about Char. Each comparison was a scalpel away at what I thought I knew about love. Sarah died clip coupons. She died drive an old Honda. She died think chain restaurants were perfectly fine for special occasions because she grew thinking anything with tablecloths was fancy. And until that moment, I'd loved those things about her. She's holding back. Emma whispered, her mouth against my neck. Look around. This should be, we're brilliant and ambitious and wasting it all on someone who doesn't even understand what we're capable of. When I didn't pull away, Emma knew she had me. Derek saw it too, she continued. That's why he had to steal from. Because he knows her better than him and Sarah's the only thing keeping from realizing it. We didn't have that night, but we crossed lines that felt worse than. I told Emma about Sarah's insecurities, how she worried she wasn't smart enough for me, how sometimes she'd ask if I regretted not going to grad school like my friends. Emma listened with predatory patience, filing away every vulnerability to use later. She knows she's not enough for her, Emma said as I got ready to leave at 3 a.m. Deep down she knows. That's why she's so insecure. I drove home with Emma's words echoing in my head, and for the first time in 8 years, I walked into my apartment and saw it through cruel eyes. The mismatched furniture Sarah had found at thrift stores, the motivational quotes she'd printed and framed, the stack of medical journals she studied every night to advance her career that would never be glamorous or high-paying. Everything looked small. Sarah woke when I climbed into bed. Where were I? Waited until midnight, driving around, thinking. She turned toward me, concern etched across her face in the moonlight. About Derek, about what happens next. I could have told her about Emma right then, could have confessed and asked for forgiveness and maybe salvaged something real from the wreckage of my stolen dreams. Instead I said, I'm wondering if maybe Derek did me a favor. What do you mean? Maybe I was thinking too small. Maybe the real problem isn't that he stole my idea. Maybe the problem is that my ideas aren't big enough. Sarah was quiet for a long time. Finally, ideas are amazing, Marcus. Derek knows it. That's why he stole from by. Or maybe I said, turning away from her. Maybe I've just been playing it safe for too long. I felt her stiffen beside me. So nothing. Forget I'm tired. But she didn't forget it. Over the next few weeks as I continued meeting Emma in secret, that word festered between us like an infection. Safe. Sarah started noticing how I looked at our apartment, her. Started questioning things she'd never questioned before. To think I'm boring, she asked one night over dinner at the kitchen table Derek used to sit at every Sunday. What? No. Why would ask that? I don't know. Seemed distant lately, like her somewhere else. I was in Emma's penthouse, listening to her explain why successful men needed sophisticated women. I was in hotel bars, letting Emma convince me that Sarah's contentment was actually complacency. I was falling in love with a version of that Emma reflected back at me, ambitious, discerning, too good for ordinary happiness. I'm just stressed about the business stuff. I lied. We could talk about it. We used to talk about everything. But talking to Sarah felt like wearing clothes that didn't fit anymore. Her solutions were always the same: work harder, be patient, trust that good things come to good people. Emma's advice was intoxicating by comparison: take what deserve, stop apologizing for wanting more, surround with people who understand excellence. The affair escalated gradually, then all at once. Emma and I started meeting for lunch, then dinner, then weekend, business meetings that Sarah never questioned because she trusted me completely. Each lie got easier, each betrayal felt more justified. Light when talk about real dreams, Emma said one afternoon in her bed, sunlight streaming through those perfect windows. I never see look like that when talk about Sarah. She was right. With Emma I felt like the man I was supposed to be, sophisticated, driven, worthy of penthouse views and expensive. With Sarah, I felt like the man I'd settle for being. I think I'm falling in love with, I told Emma on a Tuesday in March, 6 months after Derek stole my business plan. I know, she said, tracing patterns on my chest. The question, what are going to do about it? That night, I came home to find Sarah had prepared my favorite meal and set candles on our little table. What's the occasion? I'd asked, though I could barely look at her. No occasion, I feel like we haven't been connecting lately. I thought maybe we could just be together. Really together. She'd changed out of her scrubs into the dress she wore on our first anniversary. The one she'd saved for months to buy. The one she thought was the most beautiful thing in the world. Looking at her across that table, trying to recreate magic with someone who was already gone, broke something in me. Not my heart, my conscience. Sarah, I said, and she must have heard something in my voice because her smile faltered. What? We need to talk. But I lost my nerve. Instead of confessing, instead of ending her suffering cleanly, I said, I think we should take a break. A break. From what? From this. From us. I need some space to figure things out. I watched her face crumble in slow motion. Watched 8 years of love and trust collapse into confusion and desperate hope. Is this about Derek? About the business? Because we can get through this, Marcus. We always. It's not about Derek. Then what? I could have told her the truth, should have. Instead I chose the cruelest kindness. I just think we want different things. What things? What do I want that don't want? Everything about the question was wrong. She was asking what she wanted that I didn't, when the real problem was everything I wanted that she couldn't give me. The sophistication. The ambition. That looked like Emma's instead of like ours. I don't know, Sarah. Maybe that's the problem. She cried then. Quietly, the way she always cried, like she was trying not to burden anyone with her pain. How long? She whispered. What? How long I've felt like this? The honest answer was 6 months. Since Derek. Since Emma. Since I'd learned to see her as a limitation instead of a foundation. I don't know, I said. Maybe always. It was the cruelest lie I've ever told. Sarah packed a bag that night and went to stay with her sister. I told I felt relieved, but mostly I felt empty. Like I'd just thrown away everything real in pursuit of something that glittered. Emma came over the next day with champagne. Did it, she said, kissing me in the kitchen where Sarah used to make breakfast every morning. Chose pine. We made love on the couch Sarah had found at a garage sale, and afterward, Emma talked about all the places we'd travel together, all the experiences we'd share, all the ways my was about to improve. But lying there in the dark, in the apartment that still smelled like Sarah's lotion, all I could think about was the way she'd looked at me across that candlelit table. Like I was still the man she'd fallen in love with. Like she still believed in us. Like she had no idea that man was already gone. Sarah came back 3 weeks later to get the rest of her things while I was at work. She left her key on the kitchen counter next to a letter I still can't read without feeling sick. I hope find whatever it is we're looking for. I hope it makes happy in ways I never could. Thank for 8 years of love even if it decided they didn't matter. I'll always be grateful for the time when loved me back. No anger. No accusations. Just heartbreak wrapped in forgiveness I didn't deserve. That night Emma found the letter while looking for glasses in my kitchen. God, she's pathetic. Emma laughed, scanning Sarah's words. Thank for the love. Should be thanking AR for finally getting out of way. Something cold settled in my stomach watching Emma mock Sarah's pain. Something that felt like the first clear thought I'd had in months. Don't talk about her like that. Like what? Like she's ordinary. Because she is, Marcus. That's not cruel, it's just true. But it wasn't true. Sarah wasn't ordinary. She was a woman who worked double shifts to support my dreams, who celebrated my victories like they were her own, who loved me enough to let me go when I convinced her I wanted something else. Emma was extraordinary, beautiful, successful, sophisticated, everything I thought I wanted. Sarah was just good. Deeply, purely, irreplaceably good, and I'd thrown her away for upgrades that were already starting to feel like downgrades. The relationship with Emma imploded spectacularly over the next 6 months. Turns out, dating cousin's ex-girlfriend while family knows destroyed a marriage. To do it makes family gatherings awkward. Who knew? Derek, riding high on his stolen success, played the concerned cousin perfectly. I just think Marcus is going through something. He'd tell everyone. Making some questionable choices. The irony was exquisite. Derek stole my business plan. I handed him the more time by cheating on my wife with his ex. Emma and I fought constantly. About money, about priorities, about the fact that I couldn't afford her lifestyle now that Sarah wasn't subsidizing my with her nursing salary. Turns out, penthouse apartments and designer restaurants require penthouse money, and Emma had no interest in slumming it in my one-bedroom apartment. This isn't what I signed for, she said during our last. Had ambition. I do have ambition. Then why are still living like a college student? Why haven't started another company? Why are working at that dead-end consulting job instead of building something real? Because without Sarah believing in me, I'd lost the courage to believe in. Because without her steady presence, I was just another guy with big dreams and small follow-through. Because I'd confused her stability with mediocrity and her contentment with lack of ambition, when really she was the foundation that made my dreams possible. But I couldn't say any of that to Emma, so I said nothing and she left me for a tech executive who could actually afford her lifestyle. Her just like Derek, she said on her way out. All talk, no substance. At least he got the money before showing his true colors. I spent the next year alone, watching Sarah's unfold through social media like she'd moved across the country, taken a position at a prestigious hospital, gone back to school for her nurse practitioner degree. She looked lighter somehow, happier. She'd started dating someone new. A doctor who looked at her in photos the way I used to look at her. The way I should have kept looking at her. Derek's business, and why business, had expanded into 3 cities. He was engaged to a model, featured on magazine covers, everything I thought I wanted. And I was alone in a studio apartment, working a job I hated, watching everyone move forward while I stayed frozen in the moment I chose ambition over love. The real punishment wasn't Sarah leaving. It was realizing too late that she never held me back from anything. She was the reason I felt brave enough to dream big in the first place. She was the safe harbor that made risk-taking possible. Emma was right about one thing: Sarah was ordinary. Beautifully, completely ordinary. She found joy in small things, satisfaction in honest work, love in quiet moments. She never needed to prove she was extraordinary because she never doubted her own worth. I was the one who needed constant validation, constant proof that I was special, constant reassurance that I was better than my circumstances. Sarah never needed those things because she understood something: I was too arrogant to see happiness doesn't come from being exceptional. It comes from being grateful for what have while working toward what want. I cheated on her because Derek stole my idea. But that's not really true. I cheated on her because I let someone convince me that loyalty was weakness and that love was a luxury I couldn't afford if I wanted to be successful. I cheated on her because I thought I deserved better than the woman who loved me enough to work double shifts so I could chase my dreams. I cheated on her because I was enough to believe that extraordinary opportunities require to abandon ordinary love. Last month, I saw on Facebook that Sarah got married. The wedding looked exactly like the one she'd always described to me: small, intimate, surrounded by people who loved them. Her dress was simple and perfect. Her smile was radiant. I stared at those photos for hours, remembering how we used to plan our own wedding. How excited she'd get talking about flowers and music and that we'd build together. How she'd always end those conversations by saying, "I just can't wait to be wife." I never got to give her that wedding, never got to see that smile directed at me on the day that was supposed to be ours. Derek posted a comment on her wedding photos: "So happy for Sarah, deserve all the happiness in the world." Even in her moment of joy he found a way to remind me what I'd lost. I typed and deleted a dozen responses to her wedding announcement. Congratulations that felt hollow. Apologies that came too late. Confessions that would only her on the happiest day of her. In the end I said nothing, because that's what cheaters learn to do. We learn to live with the sound of our own silence, knowing that every word we didn't say when it mattered becomes another reason we don't deserve to speak now. I'm 34 years old, and I weigh the best thing that ever happened to me because I thought I deserved better. I traded a woman who loved me unconditionally for a woman who loved me conditionally, then acted surprised when the conditions weren't met. I thought cheating was about or romance or connection. It's not. It's about believing or owed something better than what have, even when what have is perfect. I had 8 years with a woman who would have loved me through anything, and I destroyed it because I couldn't handle the idea that she might be enough. That might be enough. That I might not be destined for anything more extraordinary than ordinary happiness. The worst part isn't that I lost her. The worst part is that I know, with absolute certainty that if I could go back to that night Derek stole my business plan, I'd make the same choice again. Because some people are just too broken to recognize love when it's staring them in the face, too selfish to appreciate loyalty until it's gone, and too proud to admit that the only thing standing between them and happiness was their own stupidity. I am all of those people. And now Sarah is someone else's wife, living someone else's dreams, while I sit alone in my apartment, finally understanding that the only thing I ever stole from Derek was the chance to steal anything from me at all. She deserved better than me and she found it. I deserved better than her, and I got exactly what I earned, nothing at all.